I'd like to call this meeting of the Board of Education to order. Chris, could you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Detzel.
Here.
Mr. Engel.
Here.
Mr. Yoshimura.
Here.
Mr. Gilbert.
Here.
Mr. Detzel.
Here.
Would you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's nice to have a packed room. There are a couple seats up front if anybody needs a seat. Okay, all of you have received a copy of the meeting minutes from May the 10th. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Are there any additions or corrections? Okay. Motion passed 5-0. Is Kevin in here yet? Oh, okay. Bethany Miller, would you like to come up? Recognizing 3 teachers tonight.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Bethany Miller. I'm Vice President of the Northwest Association of Educators. It is my great pleasure to recognize 3 exceptional teachers with NAE Distinguished Educator Awards. Over the past 2 school years, more than 60 teachers have taken the time to nominate colleagues who they saw going above and beyond in the classroom. Since October of 2016, we have selected 20 teachers to recognize from those nominated, including the 3 teachers we will honor tonight. Each of these 3 teachers will receive the Distinguished Educator Award as well as a $50 gift card to purchase materials for their classroom. So if those award winners and their people who nominated them would like to come up front, we have Kristen Bonner from Weigel Elementary, and she was nominated by Teresa Strong and her building principal, Lori Reilly. And tonight, Lori is going to share why Kristen was nominated for this award.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. As she said, I am here on behalf of Teresa Strong and several other members of the Weigel staff who could not be here. In speaking with them, they gave me their reasons why they wanted Kristen to be nominated, but I felt kind of odd sitting up here and telling you why they nominated them. So I just thought that I would tell you why I believe she deserves this award. When I was asked why I thought Kristen deserved the Distinguished Educator Award, I had a lot of reasons that came to mind. Mrs. Bonner is one of those leaders in our school. Her colleagues know that they can come to her and she will give an honest answer. This answer will always reflect our building mission and what is best for the students. Most in the building would agree that Mrs. Bonner is never satisfied. Some may think that's a negative quality, but in this case, it actually is an excellent quality. She continually works to improve her craft and is always seeking advice on how to get better. Her lessons never look the same and are always engaging to her students. Students love her because she truly cares about them. She cares about them not just as a student, but also as a human being. Her restorative approach and her honest life lesson conversations that she has with them has led to not only academic growth in our students, but also social and emotional growth as well. Teaching is not an easy profession. Even Mrs. Bonner would agree to that. What sets her apart, however, is her acceptance of that fact and her willingness to embrace the challenges that come her way. I'm thrilled that she's being recognized with this award and wish her nothing but continued success in the future.
Well, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to speak, but usually I'm not at a loss for words, but this recognition certainly did catch me off guard. Distinguished is defined as successful, authoritative, and commanding great respect. Funny, when I think of this word, I think of all the people I've surrounded myself with and who have molded me into the educator I am today. I'm not sure what I've said or done that made someone nominate me as distinguished, but I am truly honored and humbled by this award and recognition. If I'm considered distinguished, it's because of the people I've surrounded myself with. It truly does take a village. A distinguished district that I am proud to say I'm not only an employed by, but a product of. I've known since I was a first grader sitting in Mrs. Starnes, formerly Mrs. Smart's class at Houston Elementary, that I wanted to be part of this distinguished profession. A distinguished group of coworkers who each day do what's best for children and each other. A distinguished group of students who each year changes, but always come to school deserving the very best that I have to offer, and distinguished parents who entrust me with their child's academic and social well-being. A distinguished and relentless administrator who for the last 5 years has pushed me to set high expectations for myself and to work each day to reach those expectations and to never settle for less. And then last but certainly not least, a distinguished family who has supported me through all of the ups and downs of this not always easy, but oh so distinguished profession. Thank you to all of you for this recognition, and know that it is not one that I take lightly. Thank you.
Kristen, is anybody here with you this evening?
Oh, my family is here. My husband, my daughter Tristan, my mom, who a lot of you recognize, maybe Kathy Barkley, who also served this district in a very distinguished way, if I do say so myself. And my proud dad, who wouldn't have missed this for the world. So they're all right there in the first 2 rows.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Kristen. Next up, we have Audra Buckley. Audra teaches French at Northwest High School. She was nominated by her colleague, Lindsay Long. Lindsay will now share her description of why Audra is an exceptional educator.
Good evening. I nominated Miss Audra Buckley for the Distinguished Educator Award. Miss Buckley teaches French at Northwest High School. She hired me in the district, or helped to hire me 13 or 14 years ago at Northwest, and it's amazing to work with one of your best friends and your sister-in-law on a daily basis. We were not sister-in-laws when she helped to hire me. Mrs. Buckley's taught French in the Northwest Local School District for the past 19 years. In this time, she's served as a department chair, chairperson of the Good Cheer Committee at Northwest High School, has been a class advisor, and has led 2 trips overseas. 2013, we went to France, and in 2015, we went to France, Spain, Paris, Versailles, Barcelona, and in about 10 days, she's leading another group overseas. So I think that's pretty incredible. Ms. Buckley goes above and beyond for her students and is also one of the few CCP College Credit Plus teachers, adjunct professors at Northwest High School. Her dedication to the French language permeates her teaching and has far-reaching effects on her students, which was evident in our graduation ceremony the other day. I think 5 of the top 10 students recognized Ms. Buckley as one of the best influence in their lives. In short, Ms. Buckley is deserving of this honor and is a great role model to other staff members and students and families in our community. Congratulations.
I did not prepare a speech, but I just wanted to take a moment and thank Lindsay for the nomination. I also am a product of our district. I actually graduated with Kristen. So I'm a product of the district, I'm a resident of the district, and I've been teaching with the district for 19 years. I also wanted to take a moment and thank my administrative team at our high school and the team here to help make sure that I have everything that I need for my classroom, and as we've worked through all of the CCP to get everything that we need for our students so my students can have what they need to be successful in their future. So thank you.
Audra, do you have anybody with you this evening?
Well, I have my sister-in-law, and I also have my husband and my 2 children are here.
Congratulations, Audra. Our final recipient is Danielle Yeager from Taylor Elementary. Tracy Johnson, a fellow educator from Taylor, will share why Danielle is an outstanding educator and colleague.
Danielle's amazing, just because of who she is. It's so natural for her to be loving and merciful towards everyone. And I'm just going to share a few things with you so you'll see how deserving she is. As far as her class is concerned, she goes above and beyond to meet all her students' individual needs. She has a healthy balance of analyzing and using data for instruction and instinct and observation for who she is teaching. She sees the whole person. She sees their talents and their struggles. She sees their hearts and their minds. Sorry. She sees their dreams and believes in them until they can believe in themselves. I practiced a lot, and I didn't cry any of those times. Danielle doesn't just consider her students' academic needs, but also their emotional and social needs. When a student is achieving, she challenges them to push themselves further. When they're struggling, she meets them where they are and walks the path with them to success. I know that sounds so cliche, but it is the absolute truth. It is common for Danielle to have students come in at recess if they want to work on a skill. It's also common to see her working through emotional or social issues in the hallway with her students, using restorative practice and just good mothering. She builds strong relationships with her students because they see how much she's invested in them. Regarding instruction and classroom management, Danielle squeezes every second out of every day in order to be working with her students. She is rarely found sitting, and if she is, she has a student or students working feverishly next to her. You might imagine that leads to bringing paper grading and other administrative type things home. Yes, but she does it in order to have more minutes impacting students. That is an above and beyond kind of person. As she so naturally is supportive to her students, she is likewise with her colleagues. She is such a personal and professional support to me. She has taught me so much in the 3 short years I've been blessed to work with her. She has shown me how to analyze the standards and testing in a way I had never before. She has shown me how to improve my teaching in language arts in order to best prepare students for the testing and the years to come. She's challenged me to bring the rigor and change my teacher talk with the students. And as Christy Haskin, a fellow colleague, says, she just does everything the right way. Every district initiative, building goal, and anything else that goes along with her job, she supports 100%. She follows the expectations and then some. She has the highest integrity I have ever seen and expects the best of herself every day. I shouldn't have looked at you. Personally, she quickly became a friend. She's a great person to laugh with, and boy, do we have some good laughs. We share our family stories, and I have loved watching how she is raising 2 strong boys to become great members of their household and their community. Danielle encourages and is always giving me positive words to keep me going. It is such a comfort to know she is there for me whenever I have a need. I pray I've provided enough insight into the teaching life of Danielle Yeager that you can see just what a special teacher and person she is. There is so much more I could say. There is no doubt in my mind that she has had a huge impact on hundreds of students and adults through her teaching career. For all these reasons and so many more, Danielle Yeager is deserving of this teaching award.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to try not to cry. Thank you. I am so humbled and honored to be nominated by someone I respect so much. Not only as a fellow teacher, but as a friend. I became a teacher to make a positive impact on students, and that's my hope every day. I am so grateful and proud to have been part of such an amazing group of educators at Taylor Elementary, where it is truly a team effort every single day, and I couldn't do anything I do without that team. So, thank you.
Real quick, Danielle, did you bring anybody with you this evening?
I did. My husband Scott, my 2 boys, and my mom.
Congratulations, Danielle. We have only just begun to recognize the distinguished educators in the Northwest Local School District. We look forward to recognizing many more in the future. Thanks to these 3 teachers and their families for being here tonight and for their hard work and dedication to our students and our school district.
If we could have the distinguished educators who recommended them and their families out in the hallway, we'd like to take pictures to get on the website. If you would follow Mrs. Miller.
And just real quick, we want to congratulate all of you. The last two, you made it a little hard for me to finish this meeting here. But if we could take a minute, all the family members stand up, because we know that you are very giving of your time for these three women and all the time that they give to our district and our kids.
Pam,
Thank
can
you.
I say something?
Sure.
To the teachers that were recognized today, I will tell you this. I'm from Walnut Hills High School. I retired out of there 35 years plus. And believe me, I know what a teacher goes through day in and day out. At times it's very thankless, and I'm glad that they recognize you. These are three of the prime examples of the excellent teachers we have in this district. So they are to be commended as they were honored tonight.
At this time, if you guys can meet Brenda out in the hall for pictures, that should open up some seats for the rest of you. And Pam, if it's okay with you, Dustin is not here tonight, so if Dr. Turney could come up and fill in quite well, she will lead our ceremony.
Good evening. I am here on behalf of Mr. Gehring, and I would like to introduce and celebrate two important groups this evening. First of all, we're going to start with Colerain High School and the Color Guard. So Mr. Jacob Page, if you can come forward and share with us some information.
Where are you?
Mr. Page? Okay, well, with that in mind, I will share the information that I have before me. So, first of all, I'd like to share that CHS Color Guard, if you can come forward, please. Come on, ladies, don't be shy. Thank you. This wonderful group of young ladies placed 9th at this year's Winter Guard International World Competition. This group also scored the highest score in school history with a 92.27. Very impressive, ladies. I'd like to introduce all of the members of our Color Guard. If you're here tonight, if you can just raise your hand so that everyone could recognize you. First, we have Jessica Castaneda, Kimberly Castaneda, Sarah Hafey, Jaslyn Martin, Maddie McGeorge, Alyssa Piccioni, I hope I said that right, Anya Sari, Kayla Skidmore, Raylyn Stotler, Caitlin Tallman, Emily Ware, and Corrine Webster. Congratulations, ladies. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Oh, great. And ladies, come back, please. We have certificates for you as well.
Pam, do you mind if I ask a question real quick?
Sarah?
How many hours a week do you guys put in for practice? I don't think folks understand.
I don't know.
So go to school all day, practice during the weeknights, and then your competition season is on the weekends.
Yeah.
And so how many teams would you say were at World that you competed against? Because you had to qualify to get there, correct?
Like 432.
432 just at World.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, ladies. Sarah Casey. Great. And ladies, I will meet you in the hallway after this next presentation, and then I'll take pictures.
And then you
Thank
guys get
you.
to sneak out of here. Congratulations again, girls. Great job.
Next, I would like to welcome Mr. Tim Hobrook, AD at CMS. Okay, well, come on, better than me. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Mark Knott, one of the track coaches at CMS. This is Tracy Atkins, also one of the track coaches at CMS. And we are here to recognize a few of our track athletes this year that placed in GMC finals, including, I think, 3 separate event champions. So we're very excited. Very hardworking young men and young ladies. And we're extremely proud of them, not just for their athletic abilities, but also for their character and how they carried themselves and how they represented Colerain Middle and our district. So I'll just start calling them up, and they can come up and be recognized. So we'll go in, let's see, Kaylani Broadnax. She placed in GMC finals in both long jump and the 400. Brian Ross. Brian placed in GMC finals in the boys high jump, which, real quickly, was the first time he'd ever done it, anything like that. And as a matter of fact, we were about halfway through the season, and he came to me and said, "Hey, can I high jump?" And I said, "Sure, give it a shot." And his first attempt, and I was like, "Where have you been all season? Why didn't you do this?" "Oh, I don't know. Very humble young man. Next, we have, I can't see it, Roosevelt Ziegler. We call him Rosie. That's Rosie. Roosevelt was on our GMC champion 4x1 and 4x2. Also placed second in the GMC championship for the 200. Jeremiah Anderson. Jeremiah was also on both relays as well as the GMC champ in the 100. Levert Jarman. Levert was also on both relays. Yep, and 4x1 and 4x2. AJ Helton. AJ placed in both boys shot and disc. And then finally, AJ Foster. AJ was on our 4x1 relay, also placed in the 200 and the 400 in the championships. TJ Lyles could not be here tonight, was also one of our athletes that was on one of the relays. But I think just by looking, you can tell that Colerain has a bright future as far as track is concerned, but also just as young people coming up. So.
Real quick, AJ here ran our 4x1, and literally I think maybe a minute and a half ran in our open 400 and placed second, then had to turn around and run in our 4x2, which all these guys did that, but I think he had the shortest amount of recovery time in the history of running, because he had to run, literally ran the second leg and ran straight across the track to line up for our 400 race. So that's pretty amazing. And for us, we had 10 young men go to the GMCs, and they scored a total of 88 points. And what's really most fascinating is, like some people said, we shouldn't even include Mason because, you know, they got like 8,000 kids. But they lost second place by 1.5 points.
Wow.
So between 3 schools, a 1.5 points was the difference between winning or being in second versus being in fourth. So that's a pretty amazing feat. And our triple threat down there, Kalani, you're going to read about her someday because she's smart and she's athletic and she can do it. So these guys are all going to the high school next year, and I know they're going to do amazing things. We're blessed to have Kalani for 1 more year. So, well, Randy, we're well represented. So, thank you guys.
Okay.
Real quick.
Hold on, you.
Wait a minute, real quick, and I want to get the 4 girls the color guard too. I want each of you to introduce if anybody's with you tonight. Go ahead.
My dad, my mom, my sister.
And you guys can stand up so we can see you. Raise your hand. There we go. Okay. Go ahead.
My dad, like you, and my mom, she said now.
Okay. Go ahead.
My mom said that.
Hello.
I have my mom, my cousin, my auntie, my
look as soon as she stood up.
Aw.
Mom, my dad.
And girls, go ahead. Okay. That's okay. Uh, So I want the kids, how about a big round of applause for your parents, getting you to and from practices and dinner.
And again, I know Miss Atkins, so I know how much these kids have to practice and maintain their grades. And it so much better prepares you for life after high school because you can manage your time and make a commitment and stick with it. So congratulations.
Great job.
This way. Shake everybody's hand.
Congratulations. And their families outside, and I'll take a picture. And at that time, you're welcome to. Thank you very much again. And
Look forward to you next year at high school.
Great job.
next year.
Great job. Great job. I have to go to the flagpole for that one. It's a large group. He usually does the flagpole out front.
Okay, at this time, Joe, do you have a legislative update?
Very quickly, while the school districts saw strong support for renewal levies across the state in Tuesday's primary elections, voters rejected half of the request for new money. This is going to be a real problem in upcoming levies being passed and stuff like that. Jennifer Hogue, the Ohio School Board Association Director of Legislative Services, said the passage rate for additional funding issues was much lower, which means those districts that were unsuccessful will continue to face challenges in meeting their students' educational needs. That's it.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, Mark, I believe we have a student liaison report.
So tonight, we have a presentation by 3 students from Welsh. They did a field trip to Taft Theater to see Madagascar, and they're going to tell us how exciting that was. We have Monica Bowles and Mrs. Deutsch, who are going to help share. And we have Emma Butt, David Gonzalez, and Marion Gentry.
This should be fun.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is David Gonzalez, and I'm in the 3rd grade at Welch Elementary School. On February 14th, 2018, I had the opportunity to see the play Madagascar at the Taft Theater. My whole grade level was able to go. I like seeing the play because it's a live performance. My favorite part was when the penguin smacked the captain in the face on the boat and he fell over. I thank the PTA for this great field trip. Thank you.
My name is Emma. I'm in 2nd grade. I like going on the field trip to the children's play because Madagascar was funny. I like being outside of school still learning. Thank you to the PTA for paying for everyone to go on the field trip.
This is my child, of course. She doesn't want to talk. You're not going to tell them what your favorite part of the field trip was? Well, say what your favorite part of the field trip was.
Hi, my name is Marion, and my favorite part of the field trip was that the building was awesome and that I liked their singing. And my second part was like I liked to be with my friends. And I'm so happy to go to school with all my friends. And I'm really happy about that. And thank you.
I'm going to make this brief, everybody. I just wanted to extend a huge, colossal thank you to all the people involved in PTA this year. We had a phenomenal year. We had over a 200 increase in membership this year for just all PTA. We have a few business partners that we had not had in the past. We had a full board. We also had 100% of teachers and staff actually joined and became members of our PTA this year at Welch. Mrs. Deutsch and Mrs. Weathers have been extremely supportive and have been the rock behind PTA this year. They've done an outstanding job with supporting the students and us. I also want to say that we had over 70 volunteers for Carnival this year, so we've been pretty busy. And finally, in addition to all the fundraising and to all the fun events, I just want you guys to know that a group of us parents kind of got together and decided that we needed to do some more things and support our teachers and do some things outside of the classroom as far as education. And so Diane is one of the parents that's been on the board. We kind of did some stuff over the summer, did a lot of research, and I don't know, we had maybe 10 things that we found. And so we presented 10 different activities to the teachers and let them decide what they felt was best to do. And this was one of the things. Another thing was the zoo that came to the school. The zoo came to all the classrooms, all funded fully by PTA. In addition to that, we did have Jazz Alive come, which is a jazz band that travels, and they do some excerpts of jazz and teach the kids about jazz, and there's some interaction with music and instruments as well. So we are looking forward to a great year next year. We're going to double our students in our new building at Pleasant Run Elementary School. And, I need to recognize parents that are here too. We have, you guys just raise your hand, Maria and her husband, Emma's parents. We have Mrs. David's mom is here. And then we have Mrs. Deutsch and her 2 kids that are here. And of course we have Miss Weathers, our principal, who is also here. So just want to say thank you to everybody, and everybody else have a nice summer.
I'd just like to thank you 3 did such a great job speaking and letting us know how much you enjoyed the field trip. And I want to thank you for coming and sharing with us at the board, okay? And you have a great summer, too.
And if we could get you guys for more pictures, if we could, and then if you want to come back in, you're more than welcome. Or if you want to go get ice cream. On Miss Weathers. I'll send you some money.
Okay. Ice cream? No.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, Jim, do you have a Butler Tech update?
Yeah, just 2 brief things. Last week I attended the graduation down at the Cintas Center, which went off perfectly. And what Butler Tech used to do is they used to have 4 separate graduations for each building: D. Russell Lee, Bioscience, School of the Arts. And last year we decided let's just do everybody together as one, and it worked out very well. And went off without a hitch. And then I just want to congratulate Nick Harper, our Northwest student. He is the National BPA Treasurer. And this is the 2nd time for a Northwest student that they're the National Treasurer. Carlos Boyd, he was last year, and Nick went in and applied, and everybody voted, and 2 Northwest kids are, the national treasurer for the BPA, and congratulations to him.
actually had the opportunity to see some pictures. It was pretty cool that one Northwest grad got to hand the torch off to another Northwest grad out of the whole country, so that's awesome. So congratulations. Thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll move into reports from employee organizations. Anything from certificated and licensed? Classified? Any reports from school-related organizations? I have, oh yes, I have. I received one community comment from Mike Wenderhees regarding pilot payments for Colerain Town Center TIF. Michael?
Good evening, Board. I want to start off by saying thank you all for your service to the community and to the district. I know that from serving on the Board of Trustees that these positions can be challenging and you face difficult decisions along the way. It was nice to see all the awards and presentations tonight. I think that it is appropriate to have that at your meetings to show your support and encouragement for the students and also the staff. So thank you all for that. I did come tonight because I have a few questions, specifically, as Pam indicated, about the 1990 Colerain Town Center TIF. So last year when I served on the Board of Trustees, we did vote to extend the TIF an additional 15 years. The original 1990 TIF was for a 30-year period set to expire December 31 of 2019. The extension took it from 2020, January 1, 2020 until obviously 2035. During that time, you know, it was somewhat of a difficult decision, I'll admit that. TIFs are one of the few tools that are available to townships in order to promote economic development within a township. It's one of the few remaining tools really that we have. When I voted to approve the extension of the TIF to encourage this economic development at the undeveloped site, so for those of you who aren't familiar, the Colerain Town Center TIF includes that parcel at Struble and Colerain that has sat undeveloped for forever. Basically, this is the first development that's happening there. The intentions of the extension of the TIF was to invest in infrastructure within that parcel to help spur economic development and take it from a $19 million headquarters that everybody has seen that they broke ground on that, and that's it's well underway. But so the reason for the TIF was to put a road to access the back end of the parcel, which is closer to the backside of Walmart and that. It's actually 45 acres there. It's a lot of land. You wouldn't be able to tell that if you're looking from Colerain, but if you go behind Struble, you can see that. So the road is going to go in for $1.5 million from the tax money. So that the money that pays for that is actually the taxes that Rumpke will pay on their new building. So the $1.5 million comes from their tax dollars to use on that road to help get up to $45 million of total investment on the land. So you're talking about a minimal investment in terms of $1.5 million for a new total value of potentially $45 million at this site. So when I did vote, though, I understood the school board's position. Mr. Bowling came to that meeting and encouraged us not to vote to extend the TIF. I did vote to extend it, but at the time, you know, I sat there and I said, I do look forward to reaching a fair deal with the school district. I understand that short term, so the school district would be out money on the new value. To say, though, that by extending the TIF that we were taking away current funding would be inaccurate because the undeveloped site was very minimal in terms of value. So at that point, I did tell Mr. Bowling I look forward to sitting down and talking. We did meet. Todd, Amy, and I met. It was a good meeting. After that, you know, or at the end of the meeting, I had asked Amy and Todd to come back to the board and see if the board would accept $1.5 million in pilot payments, payments in lieu of taxes. And the thinking there was that to help make up for that short-term loss, I acknowledge that we should do something to benefit the school district. But long-term, there's no denying that the school district will have more funding from the new development on the site, and the TIF will help increase long-term funding for the district. So I did want to come tonight, though, because there seemed to be just an end to all communications. And I had never heard why or why not the board was against the $1.5 million in pilot payments. So to me, I was just wondering why the board rejected that. I understand, Mark and Joe, you were not on the board at the time. And, you know, at the end of that conversation, admittedly, I thought for sure that it would get done. Treasurer Wells seemed very enthusiastic and thought that we'd get something done. I don't see why the board would turn down the $1.5 million, because even if you had a new board of trustees, once you reach that $1.5 million agreement, you can't take it away. And now we're sitting here 9 months later, and there's been no agreement between the board of trustees and the school district. So it's making me wonder why there was no deal that could be finalized, and that perhaps by bringing it to light now, that maybe a fair deal could be reached, because that really is what I wanted to see happen.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any comments? Yeah, I'll keep it quiet. Okay, now we'll move into the financial reports of the treasurer.
Mic on here. All right, the first item is a fiscal item, financial reports of the treasurer. The treasurer and superintendent recommend the Board of Education approve the financial reports as listed.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions regarding the financial reports of the treasurer? Chris? Motion passed 5-0.
Next item is certificated licensed personnel, certificated retirements and resignations. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the certified retirements and resignations as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions regarding certificated retirements and resignations? Chris? Motion passed 5-0.
Next item is classified personnel retirements and resignations. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the classified retirements and resignations as listed.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? Motion passed 5-0.
Next is then and now certificates over $3,000. Superintendent and treasurer recommend the Board of Education authorize the payments over $3,000 requiring a then and now certificate as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions regarding the then and now certificates? Okay, Chris? Motion passed 5-0.
Next item is temporary appropriations for fiscal year 2019. The treasurer and superintendent recommend the Board of Education approve the temporary appropriations as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or comments? Motion passed 5-0.
Next item is a fund-to-fund transfer. Treasurer and superintendent recommend the Board of Education approve the fund-to-fund transfer items as listed.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments? Motion passed 5-0.
The next item is a resolution adopting a 457B plan document. The superintendent and treasurer recommend the Board of Education approve the resolution adopting a 457B plan document as listed.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions regarding the 457B plan? Motion passed 5-0.
And the next item is a 5-year forecast with assumptions. I will turn this over to Mrs. Wells.
So, as required by the state of Ohio, all school districts have to file a 5-year forecast in the months of October and an update in May every year with the Department of Education. So I'm getting ready to present our 5-year forecast update for May. This was reviewed with the Finance Committee and with administration, and the assumptions were attached with the agenda if you had an opportunity to review. So with the school, our revenues are fairly consistent. About 60% of our revenues is from local property tax dollars, whether paid directly at the local level or property tax credits through the state, and a little bit of TIF revenue from Green Township that's classified as other revenue. 35% comes from the state through foundation payments, and the rest of it is other revenue such as interest, tuition payments, rental income, and that type of thing. So fairly consistent every year. This is about the percentage of based on classification that we receive. On the expenditure side, it's fairly the same way. Consistently, we spend 76 to 80% in personnel costs with salaries and benefits, another 20% on purchase services. Large items in this category are our utilities, our special needs costs, and students attending elsewhere such as open enrollment out, community schools, parochial scholarships. Supplies are about 3% of our overall budget. The other expenditures is the percentage that the county keeps when they collect our property taxes for us, the 1.5% that they keep. Audit costs, Board of Election fees, that's what's in other expenditures. Capital outlay, we purchased some bands. So the differences between the October forecast and this May update include we received additional property tax revenue delinquent taxes that were paid that we weren't expecting, so that was a nice bump. And restricted grants and aid is down because the state is required to give us 50% of our catastrophic costs, this is special needs students that cost over $27,000 in a year. The state is to reimburse us 50% of that additional expense. But what they do is they cap it at an appropriation line item. So we're really getting 15% instead of 50% of what they owe us. So that's a reduction in what we thought we would get for the year. And other operating revenue is increased. We had an additional in tuition payments. So core play students in the district, the tuition from the resident district comes to our district to help fund and educate those students. On the expenditure side, our personnel costs were down more than we expected. This is due, we had a lot of turnover in the year. Our benefits were higher. We had high workers' comp claims for the year, so that increased our benefit costs. Purchase services were up. Again, we had an increase in students attending elsewhere, and also special needs costs increased. But fairly consistent if you look at October to May. As with our revenue and expenditures, the school cycle is fairly consistent. So this is our projection of revenue versus expenditure and the cash balance impact since 2015. If you look at 15, the revenue was increased because we had 2 emergency levies at that time. One we converted into an operating/bond levy for our building project. And so that's why the revenue starts to go down in 16. We only had the half a year on that emergency levy, and then it has gone out. And so our revenue has stayed fairly consistent. Well, our expenditures over time do increase due to cost of living. And so another picture, the black line is our cash balance policy, which we have that 3 months that we want to keep because we do owe July and August expenditures for accrued wages. Everybody works during the year and we have to pay them over the summer. We also want to keep a balance on hand for our encumbrances at the end of the year to pay for invoices that we haven't received yet. Also, in case the state were to reduce revenue or we want to implement new programs. So you want to have a cash balance to carry over. The increase in 17, that bump up was the $10 million that the board
agreed to pay into the master facility project. That's why that bumps up in 17. Otherwise, our expenditures are fairly consistent. And revenue, again, bumped up with the second emergency levy that has since gone away. But what I want to bring to your attention tonight is that the state can and does change the way it funds schools. So since 2005, the state has removed the tangible personal property tax. As a school district, we used to receive over $4 million every year in tangible personal property tax. The state just took it away. Said no more paying that, and the school is without it. Cost of doing business. So because we're in Hamilton County, the cost of doing business is salaries, utilities, things like that, cost more in Hamilton County than in other counties throughout the state. So we used to receive 7.5% more in state revenue because we were in Hamilton County. They redid the formula, did away with that, now everybody receives the same. That's $1.5 million that we used to receive on an annual basis that we no longer receive. Last year, transportation reimbursement, the state recalculated that. We used to receive 60% reimbursement, and now it's at our state percentage, which is right now 40% this year. So there was $1 million this year that we've always received in the past that we no longer receive just because the state redid their calculation. The cap. So the state funds us 40% of the formula, 60% to come from local taxes, but then they cap it. Can't grow more than 3, 5, 7% depending on the year and what they put in the formula. So this year, because we have students that at the top of the formula we're funded for, but at the bottom of the formula we pay students going elsewhere, it increases our revenue that they're paying us, which caps us. So this year we're losing $600,000 because on paper we look like we're growing and the state has capped us based on their formula. Catastrophic, $554,000 in reimbursement that the state was supposed to provide us. But again, they capped at a number in their budget, and so all the schools across the state submit their applications for reimbursement, which exceed the number that they've allotted for it, and so we don't receive the $554,000 that, based on the law, we're supposed to receive on their 50% reimbursement. The community school, $1.6 million of local property taxes this year are going out to community schools. In prior years, when we didn't fund community schools, that money stayed here locally at the district. Now we collect it and we pay the community school where the students go. So that's $1.6 million of local property taxes that we no longer keep. And again, with scholarships, another $1 million as they've incorporated scholarships and voucher programs to parochial schools that are local property tax dollars that we used to receive and keep here to educate students here that are now flowing out to the parochial schools. So what have we done since 2005 to help offset this loss in revenue? In 2015, we have the 1 mil. We had the emergency levy. We converted to a bond/operating. We have 1 mil of operating at $1.4 million, which is a continuing levy, so every year we'll receive $1.4 million in operating revenue. And we renewed, the community renewed the $7.3 million emergency levy for 10 years. So we'll get an additional, we'll maintain since 2012 the $7.3 million emergency levy. Again, that's about $8 million in revenue of the $10 million that we've lost. So since 2012, we've been reporting to our community that in 2018, which is the current fiscal year that we're in, we would be seeing an operating deficit, even with the 2 emergency levies that we passed in 10 and 12. And remember, in 10, that was a $6.4 million levy that we converted to a bond operating levy in 15, and we kept $1.4 million. So that's $5 million of revenue that we used to receive on the emergency levy that we no longer receive. So to remind everybody on the local property taxes, since that is 2/3 of our revenue. property taxes are locked when a levy is passed. And we've asked for property tax levies, and the voters have approved levies in 76, 86, 89, 97, the 2012 emergency levy, and the 2015 1 mil operating levy. With 77% of our local property taxes residential, that money is flat. It's locked in when it's approved, and it does not grow. The commercial, the 19% or 20% of our local property taxes grows as commercial valuations grow. But as residential grows, we receive the same amount of money. So someone's property may increase in value, someone else's is going down. This district continues to receive the same amount of money. So here's a picture. In 1976, the community passed 7.3 mills for the school to bring in about $3.8 million. Today, we receive $3.8 million on that levy because it's only collected at 2.3 mills. Our taxes don't grow unless you pass new taxes, but our expenditures consistently increase with cost of living. So we've been able to maintain, without the $5 million from the 2010 operating or emergency levy, we've been able to continue to operate. And then also back to the $10 million the state used to fund us, now no longer we receive.
And you can go back to that slide. So the last new money that we collected was 2015, the 1 mil. Is that?
And we renewed the emergency levy, but 2015 wasn't new. We actually were receiving $6.4 million in an emergency levy, but instead of renewing the emergency, we moved it into a bond/operating, so we only maintained or kept $1.4 million of the $6.4 in 15.
The last time we got new money was 97? Is that how many we
I
got?
would say 10, because 10 would have been the first emergency levy, which was converted back in 15, and then 12 was a new one, which was renewed in 17. So prior to 10 was 97. Prior to that was 89. Prior to that was 86, and then 76, yes.
So it's been a long time since, I mean, it seems like there's been a lot of time go through there without getting any new money in, and expenses increasing and everything else, and taking away, you know, I mean, we've done a pretty good job with the money that we've had.
Absolutely.
By not getting any new money basically since 97 or 2010. You know, that's 8 years, you know, ago. Okay.
And when the state makes decisions, sometimes we don't find about it until that year, correct?
Right, like
with
the transportation.
scholarship and the transportation, we're just out the money.
And two-thirds of our revenue come from property tax.
Local property taxes, correct, because we are considered a suburban district. So urban districts are funded mainly with federal dollars, rural districts are funded mostly with state dollars, and suburban districts are funded mostly with local property taxes.
And with the local property taxes, we're getting two-thirds of it. When they talk about the tips, that hurts us when we don't get that new money right away. And say they put it off 15, 20, 30 years. Is that how that's done?
Yeah, because we'll receive the same amount of money.
Gotcha.
Commercial property, when they're TIF'd, or not TIF'd, commercial does grow with valuation.
Right.
The TIF, instead of receiving the growth, what the TIF does is hold a school harmless. It's called a hold harmless clause, and the school can receive the same amount of money they would have received had the TIF not been in place. That's the hold harmless part. So we would still receive the money that we would have received had the TIF not been in place with the growth in commercial. But residential stays the same unless new taxes is levied and agreed on by the community. So our main goal is to consistently decrease expenditures, increase our revenue, increase student achievement, and most importantly, stay sustainable. Another thing we found out today, Moody's released our annual report, and because of fiscal responsibility, we have maintained our AA2 rating, which is high for a school district. so we're doing very well with that. I attribute that to the board and administration fiscal responsibility. And that also shows in the fact that you can see since 12, 15, we've been able to continue to maintain. We're at an operating deficit, but we've not increased it. We've actually decreased it with $5 million less, and looking at what the state's taken away in the past
So are
13
we
years.
anticipating, given the operating deficit, a new levy in years to come, a year, 2 years?
But that's something administration and the board needs to continue to discuss and talk about. You either have to increase your revenue or decrease your expenses, or both.
Right.
But right now, we are operating in an operating deficit. It's a little over $2 million for current fiscal year, and it compounds significantly, $5 million on up through the forecast, which is on the agenda tonight.
If I could add a little bit to Amy, because her and Chris will not take credit, an A2 rating gets us lowers interest rates. An A2 rating puts us in the top percentage of building. The money we were able to save with our interest rates helped put air conditioning in all these buildings. So this is an outstanding job by her and for Chris for doing what he needs to do with the construction, but I don't want that to go overlooked. It's very important. We intend, you ask when a levy's up, I think we need to work with the public. We need to go out and educate them on exactly what you saw, set up coffees at buildings, go to schools, go to communities, sit with them, explain the funding formula, and explain to them what's going on. If you saw when she started stacking those things on there, it just adds on and on and on. And I'll gladly answer, or I've already got things to address, Mr. Enderhees, in my superintendent's update. We'll address all of this. As you can see, it's the perfect storm stacking up to the left. And when a district is not kept hold on a TIF, especially when Stone Creek just came due to get this big reward that we're supposed to get, and now they're all appealing to the state saying they're not making enough money, so we may not get anything from them. So that's the dice you roll and the chance you take with these TIFs. But I'll gladly address all of them in my superintendent's update.
Can I ask a question to Mr. Enderhees?
No, that isn't order. It's not a dialogue back and forth. You can talk to him
Okay, I can talk to
afterwards.
Amy,
You can
though.
talk to Amy if you have a
Amy,
question, yes.
When this Rumpke TIF went down, and, I wasn't here, how much were we promised by the trustees?
Originally, the TIF was going to be a 30-year TIF, which would have bring in approximately $6 million for the district.
Over 30 years.
Correct. It was extended for 15.
And is that legal to do that now?
The extension was an extension of a prior to 1994 TIF, because it was 1990, which the law changed September 29th to close that loophole. And so after September 29th of 2017, they could no longer extend a prior to 1994 TIF, because prior to 1994, schools could not receive any compensation, which is why we've not received anything for that Rumpke TIF extension. But after the September 29th deadline, then schools had the make-whole provision.
And that was done to protect the school district so that monies can't be taken away. So there was just a real short loophole that all of a sudden was taken. But that's not a question, sorry. I want to jump in. I want to congratulate Amy, Chris, and the entire Treasurer's Department. I meant to do this last meeting. They got the 25 Years of Excellence Award. It reads, the Association of School Business Officials International presents to Northwest Local School District Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting for its CAFR, which is the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for the fiscal year ending in June 30th, 2017. This is for 25 years in a row. So I'd say the department continues to do an excellent job, and may we all owe them. And then talking to Chris, I think it's actually longer than 25 years. It was just a different organization that presented it. But 25 years is excellent. Does anybody else have any questions for Amy? Excuse me.
In that case, the treasurer and superintendent recommend the Board of Education approve the 5-year forecast with assumptions as listed.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any questions or comments? Okay.
Motion passed 5-0.
Next item is general business, vendor contracts. Superintendent Treasurer recommend the Board of Education approve the vendor contracts as listed.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Are there questions or comments regarding vendor contracts? Motion passed 5-0.
Next item is certificated licensed personnel items. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve their certificated licensed personnel items as listed.
So moved. Second.
Moved in second. Questions regarding certificate of licensed personnel? Motion passed 5-0.
Next item is classified personnel items. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the classified personnel items as listed.
So moved. Second.
Moved in second. Questions? Motion passed 5-0.
Next item is curriculum and instruction, 2018-19 school fees. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the 2018-19 school fees as listed. They were info at our last meeting.
So moved. Second.
Moved in second. Questions? I'd just like to thank Jenny and the whole staff. I know last year I believe some of the fees were lowered. I think every grade level but one. And you continue to look over the fees and see how we can save our families money and be the most efficient. So great job.
Next item is curriculum English 1 and English 2 Study Sync as presented as information at our last meeting. Superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the online programs for English 1 and English 2 as listed.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Questions? Motion passed 5-0.
Next item is a miscellaneous item, Neola Board Policy Revisions as introduced as information at our last meeting. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the revised board policies as listed.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there questions regarding the Neola Board policy revisions? Motion passed 5-0.
Next item is 2018-2019 curriculum handbooks. These are for information only. Please look them over. If you have any questions, let me know, and we will find your answers. Next item is student services, 2018-2019 student services handbooks. Please look them over. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Okay, at this time we'll move into the superintendent's update.
All right. First of all, we've had, and this is, I will try not to get upset over this, but it's got to stop. This is Santa Fe High School, another shooting last Thursday. It's time to stop moments of silence. As somebody said last night on TV, it's time to start moments of action. Something has to be done. I'm doing everything I can, and whether you know it or not, your board or the OSBA is also. So the following organizations: Buckeye Association of School Administrators, BASA, OSBA, National Alliance of Mental Health, Ohio Association of Elementary School Principals, Secondary School Principals, School Business Officials, Public School Employees, Ohio Department of Education, Homeland Security, OEA, Ohio Educational Service Center, Ohio Federation of Teachers, Ohio PTA School Association, and on and on and on are all getting together this summer to try to find out what we can do. As a parent, I am begging and pleading you to contact your governor, who spends more time out of his state than in his state and is sitting on a $2 billion rainy day fund doing nothing with it. Secondly, it is time to work with our townships. So this brings me to Mr. Enderhees and why we didn't take the money. Well, it's time to tell the truth. We got put in the middle of people running for trustee seats. So we were asked to take 1.5 after a meeting at which I was accused of trying to hold them hostage, and some other comments, all of which are available. To go to their website, you can see what's going on by Mr. Ritter and Mr. Enderhees, which I don't care about. But when you start messing with my kids, all 9,000 of them, we've got a problem. And we don't want to be put in the middle of a political race. We also have a trustee who is a current trustee right now that called all of us and said, are you willing to take a gamble and get all of your $3.8 million back? We find this trustee now will not even work with us to allow us to come to the table and have a meeting with current trustees. It is very difficult for Michael, Ritter, and Insco when it was those three, and even now when it's Mr. Unger, Raj, and Greg to get a meeting together because you can't talk to each other. There's only three of you, so it's illegal to meet and discuss in groups of two. But it only takes 2 out of 3 to get us to the table, and we have begged and pleaded to get to the table. Mr. Insco, who says don't vote or don't accept the 1.5 million and you'll get your 3.8 back. What are we supposed to do? If we say, yes, we accept the 1.5, then we're saying we love Mr. Ritter and Mr. Enderhees. If we say no, we want to wait for the 3.8, then we love whoever the 2 new trustees are. So as a political statement, why do we want to be in the middle of that? More importantly, why are we in the middle of that? It was very clear with Jeff Miltz, and Bob has sent this to me many times. He put up there what the district's losing every year if this TIF goes through. $256,000 a year. We just went over our 5-year forecast. We are straight downhill with funding. 250 may not be a lot to people. That's 5 teachers. And when you're sitting with class sizes of 28, 29, and 30, 5 teachers could take those down to 24 and 25. So you're including 5 people and getting a better education. All we want to do is get to the table with the trustees. We just want to be kept whole. We work with Green Township. We work with Springfield Township. We don't even work. They come to us and say, hey, we're going to put a TIF up. We're going to keep you whole because that's what's best for kids. So let's go back to my original issue. We need security in schools. I've talked to the trustees. Let's take the 1.5. I think it should be more like 2.5 or 3.8. And let's put resource officers in all our schools. This isn't just a school problem. This is a community problem. And I've got Chief Denny bending over backwards to come up with the best solution to put resource officers in our 3 middle schools and Northwest Passage. And I can't get the trustees to meet with us, just to sit down and have a meeting. And one of them will say, well, there's grudges being held by our current trustee president and our board president. Let me tell you what, this lady right here has no grudges. She lives and dies for kids, as do the other 4 sitting beside her. I am so sick and tired of hearing that. Colerain Township needs to work with the school district to do what's best for the community and best for the safety of our students. And I don't care if it's Michael, I don't care if it's Mr. Ritter, I don't care if it's the 2 new trustees. We can't stand to lose $256,000 a year because of a rift. That road was only 1.5. There's no reason we couldn't have done 3.8 and had no problems there. But when you put us in the middle of a political nightmare where people are trying to run for trustees and oust the others and all these big signs that are out there, when did the community of the Northwest Local School District forget? It's never been nothing about anything but our kids. And so we are dying to get to the table. We will do anything to get to the table. We have begged and pleaded, and they've told us possibly June. Why is it possibly when our kids' education and their safety is at stake? Why wouldn't the township partner with us to make sure we have safety and resource officers in place, whether it's the 1.5 or what we believe to do to 3.8? We're negotiating right now on a new TIF, which I can't say much about. But again, we're not being kept whole. All we want to do is be kept whole so it doesn't affect our kids. And Joe, I don't know if it answers most of your questions or what you wanted to say, but feel free to ask me anything. Michael, I hope I answered some of yours. It's not a personal thing. I don't care what happened to that trust. I just want what's best for the kids. And I don't want these guys, and it was very difficult for Amy and I not to put them in the middle of a political race. That's all I can tell you.
I just came tonight so that it would be brought up again because I felt like it needs to be brought up everybody.
I am very disappointed that I was on a Facebook page and being talked to by YouTube. I don't want any part of that. When did it become about Todd? It's about our kids. And when they won't even meet with us. They won't even meet with us. And 2 of them ran on the platform, we want to keep schools whole. We promise you'll get your money back. Where did that go? Were they lying to the community to get votes? I don't really know. Secondly, and I'll try to get off that tangent, is we had graduation.
Take a breath.
And graduation was great and it was good, but God, we've got to do something. It was a terrible feeling, and I don't know if Pam had it. I think she did. When they walked across the stage and shook my hand, and they were crying, and they said, I told them to please not yell and scream, because they knew it was 25 hours of community service. I don't know what you do. And I'm not going to say it was all parents and family members. I think it was former alumni. I think it was current sophomores and juniors who somehow got a ride there. But Jack and Susan held 10 diplomas. Jack held 42. They are trying to curtail it because the worst thing in the world, I thought the worst part was at Northwest, we had a little snafu at the beginning. 4 kids walked across the stage because they thought their names were being read because they were so excited, couldn't really hear what was going on. And then we had a stall, and then they read their names, but they had already walked across the stage. They still got, everybody heard it. But at Colerain, you couldn't hear some of the names, and that's not right. These kids work just as hard as everybody else, and it was easy to see. Some of the kids didn't care. They danced across the stage. So I grabbed their hands and said, stop, just walk on over. They did. But 4 kids came across crying. 5, if you count the one who was just crying because they were sad with the person behind them. So that was really just touching. But 4 were like, they were so upset. I won't even tell you what they said because they were so embarrassed because they were yelling and now they have to do community service. Graduation is a milestone for some of these families. I am the first out of Dad's 16 brothers and sisters and all their kids to ever go to college and finish college, and the only one to go to college. So I understand the importance of high school, but it is not right for parents to not have the respect or at least control who they allow to come. Now, some of these things you can't control. Agree 100%. Can't help alumni who show up just to yell. But we don't want to be Mason. We don't want to be Lakota. We don't want to be St. X. No, we don't want to be LaSalle, even if they have great graduations. We just want to be Northwest Soquel School District, proud graduates of Colerain High School, Northwest High School. So we will form a committee and continue to work on this because I know some of you were there. Some of you have heard from other parents, and it's at the top of our things. But I am very proud. I shook over 650 hands. It was awesome. I feel a little bit bad that the board was back in a box and the administrative team because I want you guys to get recognition. I know some of you were fine with sitting back there, but you know what? You do too much and you put up with too much not to people know who you are and where you are. So we're going to work on some of those things next year. We're going to work on how you do it. I thought Northern Kentucky University was a great site. I hope families got to enjoy going out to dinner. I think you had more options. It gets them off that single lane highway to Miami. But it was awesome. And then lastly, next year, I know you guys always ask, especially you, Pam. So the OSBA conference in September, October? November, I was close. We have 2 performing groups. One will be the Tribal Tones from White Oak Middle School with Miss Randy Parks. And then secondly, we'll have an achievement group presentation, co-teaching with the unit teachers at Northwest High School. And thank you to Daryl, Jenny, and Brenda for arranging this because they did all the work.
Awesome. That's good to hear. For those of you that don't know, at the Ohio School Board Association in November, there is always the Student Achievement Fair. And you have to submit way ahead of time, as you can see. And, you know, there's only so many groups or organizations or specific programs. And it's just my favorite part of the whole conference. And the kids are the ones behind the booth or singing or whatever. So that's very exciting that we're going to have not 1, but 2 different groups representing our school district. So great job.
That's all I got. Sorry.
That's okay. Okay, at this time, I was just going to say, and all of you know this, but we get these packets last week, so it's not, you might sit there and think, gosh, they're just voting yes, 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 and going through everything so quickly. All of us get the agendas the week before. We have the opportunity to call Todd or any administrator or anybody if we have any questions, so that's why it seems to kind of go that way. But this is the part of the meeting, if anybody has a question about anything we discussed during the meeting, you can just sit right there from your seat and raise your hand and ask the question. Yes?
Is there a reason why that information we receive in your packet can't be flipped back and forth on the screen as even below in between your agenda items before you vote?
Do you see the attachments that come on the agenda that's released, those little square boxes? You should be able to click on there and see everything.
Or is there a reason why it can't be?
Oh, to put it up there? it's a lot of stuff to put up there, and it's as fast as we go through them. It's why we release it on Thursday now, so they can get it sooner and you guys can see it. So there should be no reason you can't pick it up.
This actual program that projects and runs this does
Only
not
does the
have the
meeting.
agenda embedded items. We have listed
I know we put Madagascar up there and we're back to the agenda.
A disc is a disc you put in.
Yeah, and even if you look at like the retirement, the names of people retiring, you can see all these different people just need to come on to see some information, like to do.
You can request a board agenda. Be sent to you. They can request a board agenda.
And it's always available
Right.
electronically.
Right.
We'll have them look into it, but it sounds like it won't fit with the program that's rolling up there, so I'm not sure. I don't do that part of it.
So you can look into it, that's all, that's ESB is Chris and Amy.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes. Yes. Now, you're giving me goosebumps because I always think it's important that kids are here in one way or another, so we appreciate it.
Yeah, Monica, thanks for everything you do for our district and the time you spend with your kids and the kids in the district. I know you put a lot of time in with other people's children at Welch. That's a big plus.
Anybody else? Yes. Oh, you're fine, and honestly, people that watch it on TV prefer that too.
You might not want to see me.
I'm getting old, you guys. I've been fighting with you and you and you for a long time. Okay, but guess what? I think I'm on your side. I'm very, very concerned about the funding issues, and I'd love to understand more about it. And I'm wondering why we're not asking the question of why are we still doing what we keep doing on the state level and watching our funding going through the floor. And we're talking about property taxes and stuff like that, but there's people who voted on this stuff, you know, and they're voting against everything you guys are fighting for. And so I don't understand why we're not talking about that a little bit. You got real passionate. I love it. It was a little inappropriate, but I get inappropriate too when I'm passionate. So I'll let you slide, and I will say the community voted this board of trustees in. I think they're trying to work on things. I think we got a fresh board, and I'm sure this community, as hot as they are, isn't going to let them slide. So I think you're going to get some effort, and I appreciate your frustration. But I'm just really confused on one of the things that made me decide to go ahead and run for office was that tax break. As a small business owner, I don't have to pay no taxes, you guys, on my first $250,000. And I wonder how it's affecting everybody else, because you guys are all paying it, but I don't have to pay it. Somebody voted for that, people. Somebody is voting for these things that's nixing your funding streams. And you better start thinking about it in this election and take care of business. Even if it's not me, you know, do whatever you got to do, but you better start addressing the fact that small government is a joke on everybody trying to provide a service to the public. We are the ones. Trickle-down economics works, only the debt. The money doesn't flow down, the debt does. And that's what you're seeing is trickle-down economics is coming out of your pocket, or we're closing stuff down. So I just wanted to share that. A little bit mean, but I understand it. Everybody has to, everybody's allowed to get passionate. I believe in passion. If it weren't for people who are passionate, nothing will ever get done. But it was really fun to come and watch you all. and please reach out to me. I get to talk to a lot of people in this silly campaign, and so if there's something I can do to spread the word for you and to help connect, give me an agenda to work on. I want to help you guys. Give me your agenda when you're working with those others, so when I'm out giving my little speeches, I can talk to them about what it's doing to you.
Who are you?
Oh, I'm Carrie Davis. I am running for state representative for this district. I'm really disturbed, about what's been going on here. The more I look at it, the more upset I get, and we're down at this level is who's paying the price. But thank you for my tax break.
And Carrie, just so you know, they allow me to go to Columbus to be on committees, and we are constantly in contact with legislators. Amy even had them at our last business meeting, advisory meeting. We will continuously do that.
Well,
and
what have they done? Tell me who's
They talk a lot. They talk a lot.
Okay,
And
anybody who knows who's been in fights with me, you guys know I don't play. I don't lie. And I like results. Anybody who knows me knows if I put my foot into it, we're going to get somewhere. I might get knocked down in the process a little bit, but we're going to get somewhere. And it's just enough. I mean, I'm a registered Republican running on a Democratic ticket to do something. I'm getting beat up by both sides because I've never had a side but doing what I think's right. And this is the only way I could get on the ticket. Okay? But that's what I'm doing. Coming here to visit y'all.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Okay, with that, we'll move into board members' comments. Joe?
Well, I failed to mention this last week, but we have a marathon man amongst us, and he's nuts to run marathons all the time. I just don't get it at all, but he ran in the Flying Pig, and he ran the 26-mile marathon in 4 hours and 29 seconds, so congratulations, Bobby. Give me the $10 for saying it.
All right. Well, actually, what I run the 4:30 pace group for the Flying Pig, 4 hours and 30 minutes. And me and my co-pacer paced that group to a finish in 4 hours and 29 minutes and 30 seconds. So we were off by 30 seconds. But yeah, I'm not the only guy in the district, though. I actually met several teachers that ran it. Kayla Elizabeth teaches at Pleasant Run Middle, bumped into me after the race and told me that I didn't even know she worked for our district. And she told me that she was a teacher at Pleasant Run Middle. So, but I know we have a lot of kids that run events down there. I know the girls on the run. Cindy's group out of Struble. We had the girl, I don't know if the Pleasant Run group still runs.
Welch group.
Out there. Welch. A lot of schools do the 26th mile, where they run 25 miles during the school year, and then on the Saturday before the Flying Pig, they run their last mile and get medals for that. So that's cool. But as far as tonight, was really neat to see the teachers being recognized, especially the first one. Kristen is especially near and dear because her mom, Kathy, was one of my right hands when I was in transportation, and she was definitely one of the best employees that I've ever worked with in my entire life. It was fun to see the Welch students come and give their SALT report. It's always fun to see the little ones up here talking, and their ideas of what they take from these experiences is just more than you can even say. And of course, our athletes in the Flag Corps for their achievements this year, some phenomenal stories there. So, and on the other side of it, I will tell you that I've had several comments from community members that were at the graduations, particularly Colerain High School. I've had them address my wife, who works for one of the bigger retailers in in the district, they didn't even know they were talking to a board member's wife. And it wasn't good. They don't understand. Even when Jack got up and pleaded with the parents, in the middle of the ceremony, the police stopped. The very next name that was announced got the same response. And it's got to stop. Me and Joe were talking today, and, you know, Todd, maybe we drop the service hours from, say, 25 to 16, but they only count if you have a family member with you. You have to have an adult family member with you. Let the adults come and share with that. If they want to be the ones that act like little children. That's all I got.
Can I just say one more thing about the graduation? I was not there. My grandson had his birthday party. Should have gone to the graduation. But I was confronted on the street. I work out at a gym. I was confronted there. It was not a good situation. I think basically the two feelings that these people expressed were embarrassment and anger. And this should not go. Because next year I hope to attend, but the angst is this might happen again. So if Todd's going to formulate a committee to find solutions to this problem or remedy this happening again, I'm all for it. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
I wanted to just congratulate the seniors. It was really enjoyable to be at both graduations. I enjoyed the fellowship with all of you guys in between. That was great to get more time with you than right before a meeting or whenever I get a chance to see you. So thank you for your time. That was fun. When they recognize these teachers and they share their passion, it just, well, I'm a crybaby, so it makes me cry. But it is awesome to know that people with this level of commitment are influencing my kid. And I don't want anything, the rowdiness that went on. I want to reward the year that my daughter's last day is Friday, I believe. It's been a great year. We get new schools, a lot of restructuring going on, all positive as far as I'm concerned. I want to thank the administrative team for all that you've done this year, for teaching me my first year and helping me understand things. And I do want to acknowledge, my heart goes out to the families in Santa Fe. We take for granted that we put our children on a bus, sit in the school, and we don't think about it. You know, I have conversations with my daughter now about how she can wear her backpack on the front of her to prevent potentially getting shot if something were to happen. These are not conversations you want to have with your children. But that's the society that we live in today, so keep Santa Fe in your prayers.
Jeff?
I want to congratulate the Treasurer's Office on their award, and especially on that AA2 rating. People out there, I'm sure 99% of you don't know what that means, but it means a lot to the school district in the lower interest rates when we have to borrow money. I just want to congratulate you guys for doing a great job. And again, I want to thank or congratulate Nick Harper. This is a big deal that this guy is the treasurer for the Business Professional Association. That's like the football team in the state tournament or whatever. This is throughout the whole country, and he, you know, got voted in there. And to have two Northwest students back to back get this award is unbelievable. It's never happened before. I just want to wish him good luck. And then on the graduations, something needs to be done because these kids work hard, and when their families can't hear their name being announced, it's just it's ridiculous that something has got to be done. You know, I was at the Butler Tech graduation, and I think there was 2 incidences the whole time. You know, but they don't have any community service or anything like that, so I don't know what we can do, you know, to rectify this problem. But I want to congratulate all the kids and wish them good luck in their futures. And then just on the thing with Joe saying about Bob running in that marathon, I coached cross country for 12 years. It is a hard thing to do. It's one of the hardest things that you can do is to run that distance. And actually, one of our runners finished third in the women's age group. So, but congratulations on that also, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it.
Well, end of the year, lots of things going on, and I know it's hard to get to everything, but I had the opportunity to go to Colerain's academic signing, and that's always neat every year to see these kids. And you know, actually the funny part is always what the one thing that stands out their high school career, because one of them, I had to tell Jim when I saw him, was that her favorite moments of high school was going to the Colerain football games wearing masks so that the cross-country coach wouldn't know they were at the game. And that just kind of made me laugh because it's kind of an inside joke. But just listening to the kids and where they're going and what their, you know, future holds for them. Same with the military signing. It just, to look at these kids and, you know, they're making that commitment at such a young age, it just, I'm just so proud of all of them. We also had the business partners breakfast. That's always nice every year to, you know, we have business partners that have been with the same schools for years and years and years. We have some that are new, we have some that give lots of money, we have others that give lots of time, and all of it, however big or small that they do, it just impacts the staff and the students so much. So it's always nice to be able to attend that. And then of course we always have a recognition for our 25 and 30-year employees, and then our retirees. So that was all in one day, but it was really neat to be able to do that and attend that, and then all of a sudden something goes off your head because you have to take a double take because somebody's getting their 30-year award, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that was my daughter's kindergarten teacher. I really am getting old. But it was very, very nice. And then to go with the graduations, I will tell you, I mean, I was up on stage. I don't want to take away from the part, there were a lot of wonderful things that happened at both graduations. The music departments for both schools, whether it was the orchestra or the night lights or the band, they all did such a wonderful job. And the daisy chain and the ivy chain and the way NKU worked real well with moving things around and getting things set up, you know, going from a smaller school graduation to a larger school graduation. And the kids that spoke at the graduations did such a nice job. And I have to, both principals, how they, you know, they did their graduations. And what always touches me is both graduations recognize all kinds of kids. It's not just, oh, we're going to recognize the top 2 smartest kids in the whole school. I mean, they take the time to have everyone stand who's joined the military, the ones that are part of the different clubs and the music departments, and I just think that's so important. And so that part of the graduations were wonderful. But I will tell you, what was hard for me, because I was the first person that saw the kids, it was the ones, and it did get me, Todd, that when you'd see a kid step up on that stage, and then all of a sudden their whole demeanor, when they'd hear all this hooting and hollering and screaming, it just, I just wish those whoever it was where I was. Because that kid went from excited to just, you know, like, they were embarrassed, they were disappointed, and it was like, they just took that moment away from them. I don't know how we do, because like someone said, as soon as Jack said something, the very next person was probably louder than the ones previous. So it was almost like a game on who could be the loudest. I will say, personally, Northwest, I only really thought there were maybe 4 or 5 that, you know, were way too out of control, but Other than that, I think for the most part that went really well. It just, the ones that there were definitely some kids that up on stage, I'm standing this close to them and I couldn't hear their name. So I know grandma and mom and whoever wasn't getting to hear their name because the person previous, they were still screaming. So I don't know. I know everybody will work together and try to figure out solutions, and hopefully we'll come up with something. But I don't want to take away from the whole aspect of graduation, because there were a lot of wonderful things and a lot of great kids that walked across that stage very proud, and their parents were very proud. So with that, I believe we're going to take the motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you. I'd like to call this meeting of the Board of Education to order. Chris, could you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Detzel?
Here.
Mr. Engel?
Here.
Mr. Yoshimura?
Here.
Mr. Gilbert?
Here.
Mr. Detzel?
Here.
Would you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think I do. All right, this is under other board items. It is a public meeting for reemployment. Pam Hoffman, OP4. Members of the public are invited to provide input to the board on the issue of reemploying Pam Hoffman during her service retirement. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes each, and all public comments will be closed after 15 minutes. A sign-up sheet will be used if necessary to determine the order and place in which persons address the board. Do you have any sign-up sheets?
I do not. We'll give it a minute or two to see if anybody comes in. If not, we'll adjourn.
And then regular meeting will start at 6:30. Do you have cards?
Can I comment on this?
That's Pam. I don't know why not.
Sure. Let me go back.
Well, I guess the last time this was on the board agenda, I had questions. So, Mike, as you rolled this out to us several months ago on putting this in so we could hire people back, I was under the impression when we were in a situation where we couldn't find, say, like math teachers or science teachers, where it's a difficult position to fill, that's what this was for. But when we have internal people and external people applying for the job, when I asked the last time, I was told that, you know, we hired the person that had the most experience for the job and was most qualified. Well, if that's the case, that's always going to be the last person who did the job. They're in a job for 20, 30 years. You know, they're going to know the job better than anybody. So, I just don't want to set a precedence that when anybody wants to retire can retire and come back and get their old position back because they're going to be the most qualified for it. That's going to be an issue because, you know, we already have morale issues in the district. And if people don't have a chance for advancement and they're sitting there waiting to advance, and then we have situations like this happening, that's my concern. I hope that we're not setting ourselves up to, you know, just make more people mad.
Well, a couple
that's my
things.
concern.
We've done this probably 20 to 30 times for bus drivers. They are retiring and being rehired in their same driving position. No questions asked, never been brought to our attention. The folks who applied for this position, none of them internally were upping their pay scale. It was at a reduced 212-day contract, so it was not a chance for anybody to increase their pay.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, you know, the explanation that was given to me was that they were the most qualified, and of course, that's always going to be the case.
Some of these jobs, though, are very specific. Chris Langford has worked very hard to make 4s and 5s. They make mistakes. We pay the price through state ODE and EMIS reporting, and then Brenda has to check things. So to have someone who has no experience doing this, and to have people who interviewed for this job not even able, the majority of them, all but one, able to complete what was required, we don't just give jobs because, hey, I work in the district and I think I'd be good at this.
Right.
So it's the best person is who we want, I think, for our kids always. Someone who's good at parent relations, someone who knows how to enter discipline data, somebody who knows how to do EMIS data, because those mistakes can cause us to be disproportional, can cause state actions. Those can cause us to get findings because we didn't code students correctly. We can lose funding. This is a highly important position. It's not just something that anybody can do. So I think they posted it, internal candidates interviewed, the ones who interviewed, correct me if I'm wrong, all but one could not do the job. Some of them even handed their stuff in and said, I don't know how to do this. We can't take a chance on somebody who has no experience. We want the best person, as we do. If a good science teacher retires and they come back and they're the best and they beat 3 new ones out of college, they've got proven data, why would we not hire the most experienced? I guess is what it comes down to. And if you guys don't want to do that, then we need to stop bus drivers from doing it. This is a classified employee, just like a bus driver. There's no difference whatsoever. Not one thing's been mentioned on a bus driver. Not one.
Well, bus drivers don't come back as contracted people. They come back as substitutes, mostly when they retire.
They're driving full routes for us. And they're expected to be there on a daily basis. So they are being hired in that position and they can't go any higher. We negotiated that into their last contract.
All right.
The only thing I would like to say, and actually I agree with Bob to the extent of when the board was asked and presented, do we want to retire, rehire, because previous boards have never wanted anything to do with that. It was presented that it would be very tough cases to fill, and this could be one of those cases. But I too want to make sure we're not just setting a precedence that, okay, I think I'll have my years in next year, so I'm going to retire, and I know when I come back, I'll be the best one for the job, because I don't, that isn't what I agreed to either. Because, for example, if we didn't have this roll back a year or two ago, are we saying that I understand we didn't have anybody internally that was prepared for this job, but does that mean we wouldn't have found anybody externally for this job? I just don't want to get in a position that people are already figuring out, yep, I'm gonna work 2 more years and then I know I'll retire and I'll be the one to get this job back. I don't want to do that, because to me that is kind of set up like the good old boy system, and there isn't a chance to get new people in.
Yeah,
so
that's
I
all
hesitate
I'm
with
saying.
that. I'm not questioning
trying to be
this one. I'm just
specific about
saying
this
in the
specific case.
future.
I'm just saying down the road, I don't want that to be this to be the precedent that, you know, you're saying, you're throwing, well, it's been bus drivers and it's been this, it's been that, but I don't want this to come back and say, oh, well, you did this one for, you know, this person.
Why didn't you do it for this one?
Right.
I just wanted to give you one example from last year. We had an OP5 position open at Colerain Elementary that we posted. And the person we ended up hiring was a retiree from another district who had worked in the schools, had been a school secretary for 30 years and then retired. And so when you're talking about positions such as this, the skill set is very specialized.
Right.
It's very specialized for probably school people. And so even though we did a search, internal and external, what we ended up with, which was a great move on, or a great bonus for Cole Raynell, was a 30-year retired school
Right.
secretary from another school district. So when we say that the skill set is very specialized, there is no learning curve, there is no ability to get up and running. It's like fixing an airplane in mid-route. The schools are running, you know, and I think that is part of the reason why the skill set is so specialized, that it's hard to break into that, because even when we had an opportunity, the person we ended up taking was a 30-year veteran.
And again, I'm not questioning this particular one. It seems like this fits what I know I personally agreed to as a retiree hire. I like Bob, just don't want employees to get
I agree.
the message that, well, I've got 2 more years and then I'll just put in for retirement and I'm sure I would get the job back.
Everybody sitting here can vouch that that's been our message to our administrators also, that this is not the way you are to talk about this
Right.
possibility. The other thing is, as we move forward this is general fund related. So this is a job that is paid out of general fund. I have talked to you about other positions that are not paid by general fund, paid by federal and state money.
Absolutely.
A whole different ballgame,
Different
as
story.
just so folks are understanding. But I fully understand what you're saying, and I'm glad Bob spoke up, because everybody needs to. And Pam, I am glad that you did also, because people need to hear where you're coming from. Or the exact thing you're saying, and Mark, is that we will get accused of being a good old boy club, and these principals are handpicking who they want to come back. And this was not that intention.
Right.
I have a couple questions. So as a district, obviously, it sounds like we've had a few of these positions come up.
This is our second one.
Okay, second one.
Few and far in between, but I just don't
So,
want to get into.
Should we be proactive, identify these positions, and then start cultivating somebody, knowing that, hey, you know, Todd's going to retire in a year. Let's get somebody to start doing a little bit of that work so that they're familiar, so that if they come out and say, hey, I'm going to retire, we're not left, wait a minute, now we got to go out and look for somebody, or internally. I'd much rather be proactive and start training somebody and have somebody a little bit more knowledgeable than coming in with virtually no experience.
Well, and tonight, 5-year forecast could shed some light on that. And remember, a retiree, it's just a 1-year position, and it's reposted.
Right.
And to bring outsiders in and then cut them the next year is also not fun either. So to look internally, one way or another, yes.
And there are going to be times like where that specific AP class, or I know in years past we've had trouble with maybe a specific language teacher, and we've had to do all kinds of things to accommodate so we can still offer that for the kids. So, I mean, it's definitely something. I think we made the right decision.
Right. I
think
just don't
Bob
want
has
the
a valid
public to
point.
think, sometimes secretaries don't get credit, but they're really administrative assistants. And Chris, chime in if you want. What they're being required to do is well above and beyond anything that was required 10 years ago, because of the data report. And our funding is so closely tied to reporting kids correctly. Discipline, it could cause us to be disproportional to the state. So there is a lot involved in this. And Chris has done a great job with our 5s and 4s getting, well, we even worked with the administrators to get their job descriptions in place, and it takes monthly meetings with them just to keep them up on all the changes that's going on. So I understand.
Okay.
Fully.
Anybody else?
I would just like to make the comment that whatever job it is, we need to get the best person. If it's the person that retired, great. If it's the person out there in the audience, let's get the best person for it. But like you said, we don't want it to be a good old boy system. Oh, I'm retiring as a math teacher in 2 years, but I'm going to retire and come back and teach that same class. I just think it's more specialized positions. We've done it through Butler Tech. I think the 9 years I've been on the board, I think 3 times in 9 years, and it was hard to fill. It was all agricultural classes that was hard to fill. We couldn't get anybody. So we let them retire and then rehired them back. It just, in 9 years we've only had 3 through Butler Tech that I've been on the board. So
when you look at the number of retirees we've had and the number of rehires we've had,
there's been a lot that we haven't brought back, even though they may have wanted to come back.
Right, right. Okay. With that, I have not received any comments, so we're going to go ahead and take a motion to close this meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Motion passes 5-0. This meeting is adjourned.